the Cleveland Browns got a win over the Baltimore Ravens on a last second field goal on the road in a game in which they trailed by 14 points both in the first and fourth quarters. The NFL script has officially jumped the shark. And the Haslams, they're going to have to start paying some hospital bills for Browns fans because really, ever since they got back from the bye week, the NFL games that they've played in, and let's not count the Cardinals because with Clayton Tune in there, that is an NFL Europe team. But with the NFL games that they've played, it has been cardiac arrest city for this entire thing from the Niners game to the Colts game to the Seahawks game, and now this one where, again, it felt like hope had dispersed and had reappeared for the Browns multiple times throughout this game. And something that I think is important to get out of the way right from the outset is that Kevin Stefanski seems to be doing something right with this team to keep them engaged. Again, with the deficits that they faced both early and late in the game, Kevin Stefanski definitely seems to have a handle on this football team. And I know Browns fans, myself included, they've dragged him through the mud. I think in a lot of times those cases were still justified, but for the people who are arguing for him to be canned over games and just for people arguing for him to be fired based off of a performance for a game, Kevin Stefanski does, I think he brings competence to the head coaching position that the Browns just hadn't really seen in the immediate coaches preceding him, like guys like Hugh Jackson and Freddie Kitchens. And I just feel like Kevin Stefanski is a higher level of just knowing how to manage a team in a football game. I'm not saying he's the next Belichick. I'm not saying he's the next Bud Grant. I'm not saying he's the next anything. But I do think that Kevin Stefanski is definitely a much needed upgrade over what we've seen. And how often can you say this about a Browns game late in the game where all three facets facilitated that victory in terms of turning the tides around? Now, all three aspects of the Browns team, they did put them in that hole early in the game. I'll get to some of the sequences and some of the more specific play-by-play things as the video goes on. But it is a bit strange to see, for Browns fans at least, that I'm referencing from, it's a bit strange to see the offense, the defense, and the special teams come in clutch when the team really needed them to. But going back to the beginning of the game, you cannot envision any worse start for the Cleveland Browns, where Deshaun Watson throws a pick six on the second play of the game, his first passing attempt. The offense comes back with another weak drive that goes nowhere, and then Baltimore goes right down the field on their first normal drive and scores. I think it was just 5 plays and 70-some yards for a touchdown, and you're down 14-0, and it's not even 5 minutes into the game. Now, again, I do want to credit Kevin Stefanski because the Browns, they do respond with a lengthy drive that is just kind of ruined by a David Njoku drop down in the red zone. So a chip shot field goal makes it 14-3. So, okay, we can start to build some momentum here for a little bit. And it looks like the defense gets off the field, but there is an illegal contact call on Denzel Ward to keep the drive alive for the Browns. And then a screenplay to Keaton Mitchell, who had the touchdown run to make it 14-0. And he definitely showed off his top end speed against this Browns defense multiple times. Keaton Mitchell, definitely a diamond in the rough, undrafted rookie out of East Carolina there. Good find by the Ravens. But a long screen pass to him set the Browns up to allow a Ravens field goal, making it 17-3, so the Ravens matching the Browns' response field goal. Browns, again, though, they're starting to pick up momentum. They're moving the ball, but this time a holding penalty in a goal-to-go situation makes another chip shot field goal for Dustin Hopkins, and that's going to make it 17-6, still in favor of Baltimore. And it looks like the Ravens are going to go down to match another field goal to make it 20-6. However, Jordan Elliott, I said it last week, definitely much improved from what we've seen for the first few years of his career with the Browns. Jordan Elliott blocking the Justin Tucker long field goal. He's actually been kind of shaky on field goals past 50 yards, but you never bet against Justin Tucker making any kick. But Jordan Elliott made sure that wasn't even going to be a question as he blocked it. It got a pretty good return from Anthony Walker, and the Browns would use that to make it 17-9, which that score would hold for the rest of the first half. And at the end of the half, it became pretty evident that Deshaun Watson was dealing with some kind of ankle injury. It looked like he was limping off of the field. I think at halftime, I'm not sure. I can't confirm this. I don't have any inside sources, but I think Deshaun Watson probably got familiar with some kind of painkillers or some kind of needles or something, because PJ Walker was taking reps coming out of halftime, so we might have got a second half with PJ Walker. But when the Browns offense came back out on the field, it was Deshaun Watson in there. But Deshaun Watson would not go back in before the Ravens scored again. And of course, it was Odell Beckham Jr. on his first and only reception of the game, torching the Browns defense. He beat Mike Ford on a route, who Mike Ford was in because Denzel Ward was taken out of this game, probably with a suspected, I think they said it was a neck injury, but I'm suspecting it was for concussion. He'll be in the concussion protocol this week. And Rodney McLeod, who was also in because Juan Thornhill had to leave the game early as well. So Rodney McLeod had to change momentum, just couldn't keep up with Odell Beckham Jr. He gets a touchdown against his former team in the Browns. That kind of things that seems to happen to Cleveland. And at that point, it was 24-9. Everything's going wrong. But then the Browns offense gets back out onto the field, and it was just time to get back into this game. Cleveland responds with a very meticulous, very long 17-play drive to get a touchdown of their own. And while that was all nice and good, the issue is the Browns are going to have to score at least another touchdown. And just watching that drive, it just felt like the offense was moving through molasses. While they were moving the ball, they were dinking and dunking everywhere. It just felt like they had to use all of their effort possible just to move a boulder an inch or two. And while again they got him a touchdown that time, it didn't seem like it was necessarily the most sustainable thing in the world. But the Browns defense holding strong, looks like they were going to get the Browns the ball back with a chance to tie it back up into the fourth quarter. But the first play of that fourth quarter was a punt that Prochet, who is a former Ravens, elevated from the practice squad, former Ravens guy, he muffs the punt. He's looking at the guy who was barreling down on him, just didn't look the ball all the way in. He muffs it. Ravens recover at like the Browns 11 or something like that. And at that point, it seems like all hope is lost because they're going to definitely score at the very least a field goal, make it a 2-score game again. And again, this offense at that point looked like it was kicking and screaming and doing everything it could just to end up in the end zone with that Kareem Hunt touchdown run to make it a 7-point game. So the Ravens get the ball, and the early fourth quarter summarized for the Browns was that muffed punt by Prochet, and then just defensive penalties keeping the drive alive for the Ravens. We're on multiple third downs, holding penalties, keeping the Ravens drive alive, and eventually they do get it into the end zone for 6 points, and they make it 7 points with the extra point. At that point, it was 31-17. Still early in the fourth quarter, but with what the offense was looking like, with how the game was going, where even if the Browns do score, how would the defense respond? It was definitely looking like the chances of victory were slim to none. But the Browns offense responded perfectly. It was a very quick drive down the field. Deshaun Watson, again, it was the best he looked all game, where early on in the game, it was awful for the passing game. That drop by Njoku was bad, but that pick six was just a pretty bad throw by Deshaun Watson. Didn't get it over the defender. And, Deshaun Watson is not in rhythm early, but in the second half, he was definitely there. Something that I thought Deshaun Watson was doing well, even when the throws weren't really going his way or he wasn't making good throws. I thought he was slippery throughout this entire game. He was using his legs as a weapon, doing as good of a job as he can, avoiding sacks. He didn't have to take a couple, but I felt like it was very hard for the Ravens to get him down on the first tackle attempt. So he did a really good job of keeping plays alive and making plays with his feet in this game. And he did find he found Elijah Moore for a touchdown, and it was the comeback at that point was on. It would still be up to the defense, though, to get a stop against the Ravens, who were still leading by 7 at that point. But a Lamar Jackson pass is deflected up in the air. Greg Newsome grabs it, his first interception in the NFL, and takes it back all the way for 6. Somebody please tell Jonathan Vilma that Greg Newsome is not a backup. He was a starter. That was a game time decision, and he's not in because Denzel Ward's out. That was Mike Ford Jr. Please, just a producer, just get into Jonathan Vilma's ear and tell him that Greg Newsome is a starter, no matter who's injured. As long as he's good to go, he's in there. But besides that, it looks like the Browns are going to tie it up. It's all good. But then Dustin Hopkins misses the extra point. Ravens still leading by 1. definitely an uncharacteristic miss out of Hopkins there. He's had a great season for the Browns, but I guess at some point you have to, I guess at some point you get due for missing a kick, for missing an extra point. And for Justin Hopkins, I believe that was his first missed extra point all season. I guess it has to come at some point, but of all the extra points, of all the times, I guess it just had to be this one. It's the Cleveland way. So at that point, you need another stop from your defense. They got it, and on the punt this time, Proscia doesn't even have to catch it. He lets it go into the end zone for a touchback. But now the Browns offense, they come back out on the field. They have to get a drive going, and they do once again. The main play for this one, in my opinion, was a really good Deshaun Watson scramble. That pretty much put the Browns on the edge of field goal range. Basically said they don't even have to run it anymore. And after that play, Deshaun Watson looked especially hobbled, so it would have been difficult to really get the passing game going under that circumstance. But Jerome Ford with some really tough runs to get the Browns not just into field goal range, but into just really close territory. I think the Browns ended up kicking a 30-yard field goal at the end of this one, well within Dustin Hopkins' range. He kicked his career-long 58 yards for Cleveland earlier in the year, but it did not need that. And Dustin Hopkins on the final play of the game, he redeems himself, making this a win. Huge win for Cleveland, as the implications of losing that game was essentially taking yourselves out of the race for the AFC North, as that would have made the Ravens an 8-2 team, excuse me. Would have made the Ravens 8-2. Browns would have been 5-4. In order to even catch Baltimore, the Ravens would have had gone on some big losing streak, and the Browns would have had to have gone on a big winning streak, and plus you lose a tiebreaker with the Ravens because of head-to-head, and that would have just been an untenable situation. The Browns likely looking at getting into the playoffs via wild card, and they still might when it's all said and done, but beating the Ravens in this one was definitely necessary in order to keep pace with Baltimore for the AFC North. And that's going to do it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. If you made it this far into it, this is actually a little longer than I usually do in this game, but there's just so much going on, and what a crazy game for the Browns that I just kind of went over what I usually do. Leave a like and a subscribe if you enjoyed this video and like to see more like it. I don't just cover the Browns. I cover a lot of Ohio sports teams that I like. I do want to get a video kind of talking about the Columbus Crew and the playoff run they're doing right now, but I just haven't really been able to get that one. I'm also covering the Cavs and the Jackets games and all that. But like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. And once again, thanks for watching. I'll see you at the next one.